At the time, I called it research, but in reality, it was actually an escape. Where when I would set out to do something, I felt like I needed to plan lots. I needed to get all the information I possibly could in order to make sure I achieved what I set out to do. But that was the lie that I told myself because I realized that whenever I would try and set out to achieve something, I always felt the need to over prepare myself to make sure that there was no way that I would run into any form of struggle and I would just blaze straight through the task that I was trying to achieve. Now, whether this was in my personal life, my business, or whatever it was, that still persisted across many areas. And although at the time it made sense, right? I want to be prepared. I want to make sure that I'm, not just going into this blind. The huge flaw in that is I realized I just was looking to not ever make a mistake. I was trying to avoid making any form of mistake or, actually run into a problem, which I would then have to come to the truth of to actually think, well, look, I'm actually not as good at whatever it is that I think I am. And I noticed this a lot of the time where I would just avoid get making mistakes. And I saw in my behavior that I didn't want to have to do the whole back and forth. I didn't want to have to do the whole trial and error to get what I wanted. Right? I'd much rather search around online and do all this research before I went and did that said thing. And I notice now how destructive that behavior was. Now, don't get me wrong, watching a few videos or trying to get a bit of an idea of where you should start in something isn't bad. But feeling like you should just get so much information out there just before you start is just procrastination. Because that's what it was for me. And I can think of projects which I didn't even actually start for like months because I was just in the research phase. And I think really what I learned is that you're never going to be fully prepared. You're never going to know everything and you will make the mistakes, right? And partly, it's about trial and error, right? I mean, when I look at my YouTube channel that I'm doing now, or when I look at my game development that I'm also doing, it is a bit of trial and error, right? Don't get me wrong, I've got some level of strategy and approach to it, but honestly speaking, a lot of it I've just been learning and developing as I go. And I've been just aiming to enjoy the journey, and I have been enjoying the journey. And that's a really big thing that's missed. Often see with some people where they'll go and start something and they're really anxious about, oh, I don't want to mess up. But I feel like so many people focus on the wrong thing. Where if you could just focus on actually being able to enjoy that process, where when you do run into a bit of a problem, you can have a bit of a laugh about it and be like, oh, whatever, and then move on and push through that. I think so many more people would be able to move forward more towards the thing that they're aiming for, not because of some special tactic or some thing of research which they hadn't found out before, but more so because they're more willing to go back and forth, through that they're more willing to push through those errors, they're more willing to make those mistakes in order to see what's on the other side. So my questions to you with this video is, where is it in your life where you feel like you've been over researching, where you've been consuming more than you've actually been outputting? Because I found for me sometimes I just need to cut out the content and just start doing stuff and learn and pick up things as I go. And I think one of the big sort of things I realized is, look, it's not going to be a quick journey, right? It's going to take time, but if I'm here for it and this is something I want to do and I'm there to enjoy the process, that's what makes the biggest difference. So ask yourself those questions. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll chat soon.